The story of Jackie Robinson is well known. Signed away from the Negro Leagues by the Brooklyn Dodgers in 1945 and eventually breaking Major League Baseball's color barrier on April 15, 1947. While he was the first, he wasn't the only black major leaguer that year. 4 others would join him in 1947, including Larry Doby, the second black baseball player to debut that season and the first in the American League. In July of that year, less than 2 months after Robinson's debut, the Cleveland Indians purchased Doby's contract from the Newark Eagles. He went straight from Newark to Cleveland without playing a single minor league game. Bob Kendrick, the president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum in Kansas City, works hard to preserve the legacies of the forgotten players from the Negro Leagues. He says that while Larry Doby may have been the second player to break baseball's color barrier, his journey is still an important one to remember.
Larry Doby would integrate the American League just weeks after Jackie Robinson breaks the color barrier with the Brooklyn Dodgers, and it didn't carry the same level of fanfare that Jackie did. But again, that's kind of how we are as a society. I do a podcast with my friends over at Sirius XM Radio called Black Diamonds. And in Black Diamonds, I talk about the parallel of how Jackie Robinson's breaking of the color barrier for black folks in this country carried the same level of euphoria that we saw collectively as a nation when Neil Armstrong walked on the moon. Well, Larry Doby is essentially our Buzz Aldrin. Yeah, Buzz walked on the moon too, and he walked just seconds after Neil Armstrong, and no one seems to remember Buzz Aldrin or give Buzz the same kind of love, and that's really been the case with Larry Doby, but Larry Doby is a tremendously instrumental and important figure in the integration of baseball.
Playing for Cleveland, Doby would compete in American League ballparks that wouldn't see Jackie Robinson. So for many Major League fans, Doby was the first black ball player they'd watched in person. Just like Robinson, Doby had to persevere through a lot of hate and discrimination as he simply tried to prove he belonged in the majors.
Larry faced the same hate and vitriol that welcomed Jackie Robinson into the major leagues. When Larry Doby walked into the clubhouse there at Cleveland, no one would shake his hand. When he stepped out on the field, no one wanted to warm up with him. So it wasn't a very welcoming welcome to the major leagues. You certainly had to prove yourself. You had to prove that you belong. And then I think as these players became more integrally involved with their organizations, you start to chip away at some of those myths and misnomers that sometimes govern our thought process about one another. All of a sudden, these ball players were saying, hey, wait a minute. This dude ain't nothing like we thought he was. Larry Doby was highly educated. He was a true gentleman, and he was a great athlete.
Winning can help turn boos into cheers, of course, and Doby certainly helped Cleveland do that. In his second season in 1948, he and his teammate Satchel Paige became the first black ball players to win a World Series championship when Cleveland defeated the Boston Braves. In his 13-year Major League career, Doby would hit 273 home runs, leading the American League in that category twice. And he made 7 All-Star games.
Larry Doby was first and foremost a tremendous athlete. Larry Doby was a multi-sport star, but he was an outstanding player in the Negro Leagues, primarily an infielder when he was playing in the Negro Leagues, which again gives you an understanding of his great versatility, because once he gets to the major leagues, he becomes a great outfielder in the major leagues, but an outstanding ball player, great arm, great range, hit for power, hit for average. There was nothing that Larry Doby could not do.
It took a while for him to get to Cooperstown, but Doby was finally enshrined in the Baseball Hall of Fame by the Veterans Committee in 1998, almost 40 years after his last game. While his impact may have been overshadowed, Larry Doby was still a sports legend and a trailblazer.
Larry Doby was an American hero who also happened to be a great Hall of Fame baseball player. But in many respects, Larry Doby should be held in the same regard as we do with Jackie Robinson, Roberto Clemente, those who so selflessly gave of themselves for the betterment of others. And Larry Doby is probably the lesser known of those two names that I shared. But Larry Doby's place in baseball history is tremendously important. And it's incumbent upon this museum to make sure that people understand just how significant Larry Doby was, to our game and to this country.
Thanks for checking out Sports Stars of Tomorrow on YouTube. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a like and please subscribe to our channel so you see all of the latest content.